Welcome back for part two. It's good to be back. As I said at the beginning, James Gregg returns to join Dom Howson, the Sheffield Wednesday writer of the Sheffield Star, and James Shield, the esteemed Sheffield United expert. You notice how he got a bigger billing than
I know,
Dom?
yeah, I can't believe that.
I mentioned Dom first and then boosted James.
So best to last and all that, isn't it?
There's a little bit of needle going on in the first half there, and Dom is threatening an equaliser.
Right.
Yeah, he's got something cooking. Czechs, like a very indeterminate pinstripe.
Doesn't go very well on the camera though, pinstripe, does it?
It doesn't. Hence, you're wearing.
That's why I'm wearing
pinstripe. Yeah. Blue and white.
Blue and white pinstripes. Yeah.
Very fair of you. Very fair.
Yeah. It's more for Huddersfield Town now, apparently.
I'm mentioning Huddersfield Town. Dom, there was a conversation Dom could not have, but he can have it now because there's no rivalry, is there?
Well,
Huddersfield Town and Sheffield Wednesday.
What are you getting at on?
Well, didn't you get promoted?
Huddersfield got promoted.
Yeah, in the Premier League, so you can talk about them now. Okay. You can declare your.
He's done an excellent job, hasn't he, David Wagner?
He has.
He's done all right.
Yeah, he has. It must have been, seriously though, it must have been a bit awkward for you at times. Playoffs particularly. I thought you handled it with great aplomb.
Oh, that's very nice of you to say. Yes,
yeah. You kind of just.
Have you ever been in that? Oh, you'd have been in that boat as well.
Yes, I have once. Yeah, I have once.
You know how I tried to turn that and deflect quickly?
Twice. Sorry, I tell a lie. Twice. Yeah.
It's a good job that you, I don't think, were working on the day that the Blades got relegated under Dave Bassett from the Premier League at Chelsea, where they lost.
I was there, though.
You were there?
I was there.
Cheering on Chelsea.
Of course he was.
Yeah, those late goals.
Do you know what? Joking aside, that is a game that will. I can remember that now as if it was yesterday. And the reason being, I was leaving the ground with some friends of mine. We were going for a milkshake or something like that after the game.
And he just told us a tall story.
And I can remember, of course, with the Everton situation, and there was a point pre-mobile phones and what have you, so it was on the radio, and we all thought Everton had been relegated, which, you know, apologies to any Liverpudlians out there, but was absolutely hilarious, and you're quite right, should have been.
Yeah.
And I can remember just leaving the ground, and the Sheffield United fans who were leaving the ground absolutely didn't even look distraught. It was just stunned.
Yeah.
And I can always remember that. I can remember that now.
I know. It was. I felt, I'm not a Blades fan and else, I just like both the Sheffield teams to do well. I felt sick to the pit of my stomach that day with what happened to Sheffield United, because I know that nobody had anticipated it. Dave Bassett on the Friday had been bright and breezy in his press conference. To show what a quality guy he is, he brought in, there was a core of about 3 or 4 of us who went to every press conference, and there was a bottle of champagne for each of us to open the following night when Sheffield United's status was confirmed. I mean, these days nobody would tempt fate like that, but the situation, it just couldn't happen. They couldn't be relegated.
Well, you got a bit of champagne after United's promotion, didn't you?
Yes, there was a little bit of that.
It was nice, classy.
There was a magnet with the League One.
There was, yeah. Do you know what, though? They do that really well there. They're a nice, down-to-earth football club.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anybody else isn't.
No, but
they're a nice, down-to-earth football club, and I think that's great. Yeah,
absolutely. We were talking during the break about David Brooks. James raised the subject, and we all knew he was a fantastically talented player from those little cameos last season. But the way he's developed and the way, do you think he'll start on Saturday against Brentford?
I'm not so sure he'll start, and that's not through any sort of inside information or anything like that. It's just, you see what they've been doing in pre-season. I don't think he'll start the game.
No.
But I do think he'll possibly be the first, if they need to get back into the fixture, or they're going to win the game later on, I think he'll be the first port of call off the bench.
Yeah.
James actually remarked there. He said, you said that before he looks a lot more cocksure than he did before. Is that right?
Cocksure. Possibly. I know what you mean, but we said in the break, didn't we? Last season, even after training with the first team squad, there was still something quite sort of boyish about him.
Yeah.
But what's happened with him going away with England, being named player of the tournament, I think that's obviously given him a huge confidence boost, although hilariously, I gather he didn't realise he'd won player of the tournament.
Did you not?
Until his mum pointed it out, because he said the whole ceremony was in French, so he went up, did his bit, and thank you very much for the trophy.
He must have heard his name.
And it was, well, he did. I don't know quite what he was thinking, but he didn't know why he was up there. And it was only when he got back down, I don't know if Mrs. Brooks has got a French O-level or anything like that, but she did point out to him, you do realise that's the player of the tournament.
Le Jouet de Tournoi or something.
Yeah.
Oh, is that right?
Subtitles just appeared on the bottom
Très
of the screen.
bon, Monsieur Biggs. But no, he's got a huge shot of confidence from that, and you can just see he finished last season a very talented boy, and he's going to start this season, I think, a very talented young man. I don't think it's a case of when that lad makes it. No. Sorry, of if that lad makes it. It's a case of when.
It's an amazing turnaround, though, isn't it? When you're thinking that it looked like he was going to Chesterfield and only so long ago, and now look at him.
Yes, I know, that's a sore subject. Can we move off that subject, please?
Having said that, on the contrary, you say, right, okay, so Louis Reed went instead of. I watched them on Saturday. Louis Reed was fantastic, really, really good. And like, similar to what you'd said, gone away a boy, come back a man. That was certainly the case for Louis Reed. Looked a real player.
He ought to boss things in League Two, didn't he?
Yeah, he's good enough to do that. And I think it's a cracking move for him as well, that. Because he'll play, and he desperately needs to play.
Absolutely.
He's too good just to sit on the bench and kick his heels.
So does George Hurst, and let's hope that situation's resolved before very long. I mean, if ever a situation was crying out for a player to go on loan, if he's not going to be involved in the senior squad, then it's George Hurst at Sheffield Wednesday with all that talent.
It's dragged on for too long, and Hurst, of course, was in the England squad with David Brooks, and they both had great tournaments. I think George got 4. And in that competition, and 40 goals last year, incredible. But he's 18 and he's got a lot of potential, but he does need to go out now and experience men's football. That's the way he's going to develop and get even better. And the longer that the contract talks, which have gone on for far too long, I think, for everybody's liking, that have just sort of dragged on, it's doing him no favours whatsoever.
No, I do hope that gets resolved very quickly. I think Leicester's interest is absolutely genuine. I'm sure they've made a couple of offers. They'll probably be prepared to go higher still, but I don't think he should even be a sale consideration for Sheffield Wednesday, and I doubt it is actually. You develop a player like him through the academy, and with all the history of the family connection, you want to see him, hit the ground there.
Oh yeah, it was the best prospect that Wednesday produced in years. Yeah, and that's why Everton and Leicester and there'll be a whole host of Premier League clubs are interested in looking at him as, you just can't escape what he's doing. Is fantastic, but he now needs to go to another level by going out and playing. But they've got to get his future sorted out once and for all.
Yeah, and let's hope there's a compromise of some sort that resolves it. We kicked off about kits earlier, and it did kick off a bit because there was a mixed reception for the Sheffield Wednesday kit. How important is a kit, James? Because like you, I was quite sickened by the Sheffield United strip during the unfortunate 1 year under Nigel Adkins. That, if ever there was a mistake in the design of a kit, I thought that was it. What did you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, the one good thing is it wasn't slim fit, because I've seen that in rugby league, and it doesn't look great, does it, on the likes of us or your average guy on the terraces? No, call me old-fashioned, but I get the sort of the history angle. Sheffield United obviously did something very similar to what's going on at Sheffield Wednesday now, and it was a nod to history, and there was a sort of a factual element to it. But I just think Sheffield United playing red and white stripes, Sheffield Wednesday playing blue and white stripes. And do you know what? You mentioned Nigel Adkins there. I always remember that's what people associate with the football clubs. Yeah. If Sheffield United go up, probably people couldn't care what they're wearing, and the same goes at Hillsborough.
That strip would have been okay, yeah.
But I still think, it's an important, that is the tradition now. And I always remember Nigel Adkins, when we were in the co-owner now, his office in London. Yeah. And they were posing with the shirt to unveil Nigel. And just off camera, I always remember him just mentioning, where's the red and white stripes?
Isn't that revealing? That's revealing. Just a little aside. Have you any time? I mean, I'll put my cards on the table. I'm a traditionalist, you know, and the older you get, the more traditional you become. So I'm with James on that. Red and white, blue and white, and I do prefer the blue and white stripes. But I won't make a real thumping issue of it, because I think it's what the supporters say about their team's look that counts for more.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
You know,
but
what we think is almost irrelevant, really.
Yeah, but there's a big buzz and excitement around that for fans. That's one of the questions that I'm sure James has got bombarded with over the summer. When's the kit going to get unveiled? And likewise with me, especially with the fact that it has gone on for too long.
I mean, it's a smart look. It's like a blue version of Arsenal, or it's a bit like Ipswich. There's one or two people, but it's smart. And I remember Wednesday playing in the 60s and I think early 70s. But it was controversial then. But by the way, it was controversial then.
But they didn't do too bad in that period, so you know.
66 they reached the final,
exactly.
but playing in all white, so they never played in the blue shirt. No. But ultimately, things petered out, and it became symbolic to go back to the blue and white. If we go back to the blue and white, we'll have better fortunes.
I just think there comes a time, and this is the same for United, it's the same for Wednesday. You wouldn't see Juventus now going back and playing in pink shirts.
No.
They're black and white stripes.
Yeah, it's like a trademark, isn't it, really? But anyway, the results on the field are what
you get
counts.
miserable when you get older, as you said.
And we've said, there might be a bit of negativity about Sheffield Wednesday at the moment, but if they were to go win at Preston, they've got Chesterfield. Now, that's dangerous for them in the League Cup. That's Tuesday night. I've got a bit of a fancy for one of the teams in that game on Tuesday night, and I won't tell you which one it is, but you know which one it is. And then at home to QPR. No, look, come on, win the 2 league games. There's going to be no negativity about it.
The 2 very winnable games. Yeah. I actually think that this first month, where Wednesday, if they get through in the Cup, you could potentially have 7 matches in August. Yeah. Wednesday in the league, you look at the 5 games there, and for me, I think they should be targeting 3 wins. And that would be a big improvement on what they've managed over the last 2 years, where the slow starts. If you talk to any of the players or Carvalho, they will tell you that that's what's killed them. That they've been playing catch up then, and the problem is that it's too competitive and too hard as the league that you can't afford to fall behind. If teams, they just come out of the trap so quickly, especially the ones at the top. I think Huddersfield, for example, won 6 of the first 7.
They were flying. They were top by a long way. And then after slip down a little bit.
Yeah,
they had
but it gives you that cushion. Yeah, it does. And I think it takes a bit of pressure off too. And all eyes are going to be on Carvalho, right? The fact is that there is pressure there.
It's a big season for him, a pivotal season for him. He's done a great job. Let's hope. It's always that hazard, isn't it? You've knocked on the door twice. Yeah. That 3rd year is always going to be quite a tense one.
It's incredible that he's been there just over 2 years, and he's the 3rd longest serving manager in the division.
It's amazing.
That just tells you everything you need to know. That
it certainly does.
You wouldn't wish to be a manager in the Championship. It's just.
And just before we come to James, I think it's symbolic. A big statement has to be made in that QPR game, especially that first home league game. The way they start that game is almost more important than the result, because those tedious starts that they've had, those pedestrian starts, were kind of tolerated a bit last year, because ultimately the results were good enough to get them in the top 6. But you get the feeling it will not be tolerated.
Well, do you know what? They've had record season ticket sales again, so over 20,000. There'll be a big crowd there, and if they get the result at Preston, Chesterfield, then to come get a couple of wins, and it sets up the QPR. I'm not, and they make a lot of changes for the. Make a lot of changes for Wednesday. They feel their second.
Chesterfield will play their strongest team, believe you me. Almost sure they haven't got the same luxury. Right, James, what else is going on?
Of course, we'll carry on with our football fix in just a moment. We'll talk about there's lots of other things going on as usual as well. WGC Golf this weekend, both Matthew Fitzpatrick and Danny Willett in action at Firestone in Ohio. It's an iconic golf course, that one's a golf course that Tiger Woods dominated quite a lot in the late 90s and early 2000s as well. First round today, Matt Fitzpatrick, 3 over par, tied 53rd. Danny Willett +6, tied 75th. So his bad run of form continues as well. Sheffield Eagles, they're in action in the Super 8. They've managed to squeeze in there, mid-table again. But to be fair, like we were saying at the start, well, this time last year, lucky to have Sheffield Eagles. Yes. So it's good to see them doing all right, even though they did lose to Dewsbury last weekend. Play against Oldham in the Super 8s on Sunday. That's at home. Of course, it's not really at home, though, is it? It's Wakefield, the Wakefield Trinity Stadium. Joe Root, he captains England in the final test of his first series as skipper at Old Trafford. First day's play tomorrow. 2-1 up against the South Africans in that series. He's done all right, hasn't he, so far? Yorkshire, of course, in action as well. Tonight at Headingley against Derbyshire in the T20 Blast. They're going okay as well. I think they're second in the North Group table, and a short while ago they were 71 for about 8 overs, so not too bad for them. Good start for them. Uden Trophy, you've been down there today, Alan. If you're not aware of it, because we've had a few weeks off, we've not had much chance to build up to it that much. But it's a week of football, teams from all over the globe travelling, academy sides, under 14s and under 16s. It's actually the finals tomorrow. There's some pictures appearing on the screen.
Yeah, no, I was down there today, and these are very amateurish photos from my iPhone.
Look at that.
But there you are, a bit of an action shot. Now, this is from the game between FC Basel and Seattle Sounders. That first one was. Just freeze on that for a moment. Go back to that. That's Seattle in the white. And that's FC Basel. Seattle won by 2-1. They're the holders at the under-16s, and they go through to the final tomorrow. Now this one, this is Everton 1, Charlton 0. Now when I looked at that photo back, I was reminded of the old Spot the Ball competition. Do you remember? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Now if you remove the ball from that, that would be just what used to appear in the Sheffield Star and Greenan, minus the ball as to where you could guess that ball was. Everton in blue. Now then, one familiar figure here. Now, we know who one of them is. Now, there were loads of scouts, by the way, there today, representing various clubs. The guy on the left is a scout. He used to play for Sheffield Wednesday. Now, to be honest, I had to be reminded who it was today. You don't know. James don't know. James don't know. There's actually Gavin Oliver, who I believe now scouts for Manchester City, which gives you an idea of the level at which scouts are paying attention to this tournament. And that is Glenn Turner with the baseball cap on. He's coaching referees, all the You Are the Ref team, experienced ex-officials, give them a masterclass and talk them through games and debrief them. He was debriefing the officials there who, from what I could see, 2 games going on simultaneously, all had good games.
I was waiting for your holiday snaps then, Alan.
No, exactly. I have got.
Or do we call you Bailey Briggs?
Yeah, I've got 5 or 500 on here, but I don't think we've got time for those. But David Hurst, of course, was there as well, who I think does a little bit of work with agencies. So
it's good.
All in all,
well, if you do want your football fixed, finals are tomorrow. Midday is Sheffield United under 14s against Sunderland under 14s. And then the under 16s game, it's 2:30 that starts. Everton, and as Alan said, play against last year's defending champions, the Seattle Sounders, of course, all the way from the United States. Quite a force to be reckoned with. Good side, good setup, and shows what a force the United States are going to be in a few years' time, I think.
And United in the Sheffield sense, yet another junior team at that junior level doing very, very well.
I think this is the third competition in the last couple of weeks that they've won, because they came back with silverware from the. I think it was the Foil Cup, wasn't it?
Yes,
in their category as well.
Right.
And they've won another one in between, so potentially this could be the third
trophy. The under-18s won the end of last season, just as the Wednesday under-23s did.
Yeah, did the double. That was their best year that Wednesday's sort of development squad and youngsters have had in a while. And it would be nice to see more of them now make the step up into the first team, but only time will tell on that.
Is there a gateway for them? You can understand both policies. They're trying to, ambitiously trying to buy their way into the Premier League.
You're thinking about the here and now, aren't you? And so that's why it's difficult. The pathway doesn't seem to be there for a lot of them. So hopefully the ones who've done well, such as Conor O'Grady, Jack Stobbs, they need to go out on loan, and you know, if they're not going to make it at Wednesday in the long term, then the bigger picture is hopefully they go and sample some first-team football elsewhere.
Okay, the big question for you, I posed it to James at the end of part one. He was quite confident about the Blades in the coming season. He used the term Preston-esque for the kind of season they might have. You know, top half, possibly flirting with the playoffs. You never know. And I agree with that, because I think I wrote a column a couple of weeks ago. I'm tipping top half. Sheffield, Wednesday, I went no further than competing for the playoffs. What does Dom Howson think?
I agree. I think it will be another year where they finish in the top 6. It will all depend on the recruitment, and they've got to get it right, especially at centre-half, as I touched on in the first half. And I think if they manage that, then who knows? If they get on a roll and they get the place rocking, like they did particularly in the first season, purely from my point of view, you you want to see the team do well and get the results, but I think this year I'd like the style to go somewhere in between Carvalhaal's 2 years, of where last year we saw a lot of they were being efficient and digging deep and grinding out the results, and they didn't blow many teams away, whereas they showed that flair and that flamboyant style in the first year that he was in charge, where they just fell short. And so I think if he can, that's the challenge, I think the biggest one, that if they can do it with a bit of style and flair, again, I think that would make the punters very happy.
It's getting into the mentality and psyche of the players sometimes. So I don't honestly think that Carlos Carvalho deliberately set his team up to be as sterile and negative looking as they appeared to be at times last year. I had the impression, it's only an impression, the players were kind of abdicating responsibility. We'll keep possession. I can't make anything for that. You go there. It'll come back here. Go over there. There wasn't enough positivity in the way they were playing the ball, or the way they were looking to attack.
I think there was a fear factor that they know that they're a prize scalp now. They've established themselves as one of the best teams in the division over the last 2 years. So they have to deal with that. And the fact is that teams will come to Hillsborough, and Sheffield United might do this in a few weeks' time. What do you think they're going to do? They're going to make life very difficult. They're going to get in their faces, and they're going to frustrate them. They're going to try and take the crowd out of the occasion in the first 20 minutes. And Wednesday should have the ability in their squad to get round that. And I don't think we saw enough solutions at vital points last year. And so that's got to be what changes this time around.
One thing that won't change is the positivity in Sheffield United's approach. Chris Wilde has been absolutely clear on that. He came in here and said it. So did Alan Nill. They're going to, people say, oh, you can't play that way in the Championship. They're going to try to.
Yeah, you can play that way in the Championship. Why can't you? I've never heard anybody say why you can't. It might not work
with a newly promoted team.
As we said earlier, if they can't go into a season, after getting 100 points, they were far too good for League One. But if they can't go into this season in a positive frame of mind, after getting 100 points, finish 14 points clear of their nearest rivals, then, blimey, when can they? And listen, it might not work out. There might be the odd time in the season where they take a bit of a hiding. But I tell you what, I think they'll bloody a few noses too, as well, because they will go for it. They've got the players to do that as well. You play to your strengths.
Yeah. Billy Sharp, be glad to hear that as well. Getting plenty of ball coming in there, and one or two people I've even heard writing him off. Don't do that.
No,
he's been there and done it before in the Championship.
If you can finish, you can finish in any division.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We've got to finish, very, very sadly. Thank you, James, as ever.
Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Dom. Thank you, James. We'll call it a draw. 1 each?
1 all.
Yeah. On my YouTube channel later. If you missed me, Tom, will see you next week. Bye. Bye.